Hello YouTube, my name is Emmanuel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know getting started using VS Code. VS Code is a code editor just like Sublime Text, Atom, Bracket, and some other editors like that. We also have IDEs, but of course, I'm focusing on VS Code because it's one of the most popular that developers are using currently. This is because this is super useful. There are a lot of things you can do within VS Code within a small time and you get your work done. So as a developer, even if you have been using VS Code for a lot of time, this video will be very useful for you because I'm going to be showing you a lot of tricks that you can use that will make you super productive. I'm also going to be sharing some of the super useful extensions that I've used in the past that has helped my productivity. So without further ado, let's get into it. Today I'm going to be using a different tool compared to the idle that we started using in the previous video. And the reason for that is because this tool is super useful and I'm going to show you how to set that up as well in your own environment. Let me show you how to download it. So you want to download Visual Studio Code, which is the editor I'm currently using in this case. Just type VS Code. Their website is smart enough to know that I'm currently on a Windows PC, but of course there are other options there. So if you're on a Mac, you can select the option for Mac. And if you're on Linux, you can also select the option for Linux. So as soon as you are done with that, you can already click on this. I already have this installed on my computer, so I don't need to download this. You can see the editor right here. But just for explanation, I'm going to still try to do the installation just so you see how useful and easy this is. And of course, this is not just useful for Python programming. You can use it for other programming languages like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and some other languages. So we're going to be using this tool because it's super useful compared to idle that comes with Python. All right, so once you have this downloaded on your computer, let me go back to my download folder. So in my download folder here, I have Visual Studio Code. So this is what you are going to have as the download. Setup has detected that Visual Studio Code is currently running, which is telling you that I already have it installed. Installation is pretty straightforward. So once you have it installed, this is the first thing you are going to see. You're going to see a welcome window like this. And the way I use this tool is I actually open a particular folder directory from my computer so I can work in that folder and it gets stored in that folder already. All right. So for this tutorial, I created a folder structure, YouTube tutorial here. So how will I open that in Visual Studio Code? There are multiple ways to do that. One of the ways is to open the actual folder. Then you just select an empty space here and highlight this path in your computer. So once you're able to do that, you can type CMD, short for command line. So once you press enter on your computer, it will open the command prompt on your computer. So the reason we are doing this is just so once command prompt is opened, from there we can already open Visual Studio Code. So all I need to do is type code, put a space and put a period. Make sure that there's a space between your code and period. If you put it together like this and put a period, it's probably going to complain. Let's just do that. Let's see. You see that it complained that there's nothing like code period. So however, if I type code space period, it's going to open Visual Studio Code in this current directory. That's what it means. So the period you put there with the space shows that you want to open Visual Studio Code in the current directory, which is YouTube tutorial. That's the directory. So if I press enter now, it's going to open the same window that I currently have opened previously. Now, this is Visual Studio Code. How do you use this tool? All right, so there are a couple of ways to use Visual Studio Code, and there are basic tools you need to focus your attention on. One of it is the Explorer window. So the Explorer window provides where you can have your files and folders stack, you know. So here, let's say, of course, I'm going to start. Let's say I want to create a file, for instance. I can just click on this first one. I can say app.py. So it's going to know that this is a Python file and you can already see the Python logo here. If I want to create a folder, I can click here and say source, for instance. So you can see this is already a folder. I can put stuff in it if I want to. I don't want to anyway. All right, so this is a file, this is a folder. These are two basic things you want to be able to do within Visual Studio Code. Next thing I want to show you is source control. So source control help you to connect to your GitHub repository. In the future or in one of the tutorials I'm going to be making soon, I'm going to show you how to set up your GitHub repository. So GitHub is a version control system, while Git is a way you can track the versions of your application within your computer. So GitHub itself allow you to virtually host your application. That means you can access your software on a different computer. So if currently you don't have your computer at hand, you can have somebody else's computer, and then you are able to clone your code back into somebody else's computer, use it, push it back and all that. So all of these terms and all of these processes, I'm going to be showing you how to do them. This make your life a lot easier. And this one is for debugging, to pinpoint where there's an error in your code. And this one is super important. This one is for extension. So it's the extension panel. Currently, I have about 33 installed extensions. I'm using them for different purposes. So you don't have to have a lot of extensions. Now, if you want to use Visual Studio Code for Python, you need to download the extension for it. So once I type Python here, is going to try to look for it. And of course, I have this Python by Microsoft IntelliSense. So it just helps me to auto-complete code and do a couple of things and all that. The only thing you need to install is just the Python IntelliSense, just so it gives you speed while you are coding. Another thing I want to also show you for you to be able to use this editor well is you come to File, there is autosave here. So this autosave prevents you from manually pressing Ctrl S all the time when you want to save. So you don't need to press Ctrl S. It just saves as soon as you type the code. So that's one of the important hacks I want to put your attention to. Another thing you want to know how to do in VS Code, of course, this is just the start window. So I've shown you how to use the window explorer. So there's another one called search and replace, and I'm going to demonstrate by actually creating an example project. So let's say I decide to create a new project now. Usually I put my projects in my portfolio folder here, and I'm going to just create, let's say, sample. So right there, I'm going to bring that into Visual Studio Code. So it reopens the app, and then you see it already created a folder. So let me call this maybe index.html. It doesn't matter what language. I'm just trying to show you an example here. All right. I can also have maybe app.py, for instance. So in this case, let me just type some random stuff. So in my subsequent tutorial, I'm going to be teaching HTML. So if you want to learn that, stay tuned. So if I do this, I'm able to generate the boilerplate for HTML. So I can say lorem to have some text. One of the ways to work with these two files is to actually stack them side by side. Let me close this. So I have two files now. I can put them side by side just so I can see them, easily. So I come to view. In the view, I will come to edit layout, editor layout rather. So then you split two columns. So when you split two columns, you can drag and drop the other one here. So this way, I can see what is going on here. I can see what is going on here. I might even choose to rename this to, let's say, CSS file, maybe main.css, because this is more relevant. So I can decide to say body background color blue. So that way I'm actually able to see what I'm styling here directly. All right, so let's move to, yes, so I've spoken about this splitting screen. All right, so another thing you want to know how to do well is to know useful extensions for different purposes. So if you look at this, let's say you need extension for coloring the folders in this place. Say for example, if I create a folder now, I can say JS. So you see that this folder is even named after what it is about. I can create another folder, call it py. Let me try to. So that's supposed to be a Python folder. I can rename it to Python. Let's see. Let's see if it will recognize. So it didn't recognize that. That's fine. Now you can see how the colors of the folder and each of those things. This is the symbol for CSS. This is the symbol for HTML5. This is the symbol for JavaScript. How is this happening? This does not come by default. It's an extension. So and the extension is okay. So you can see VS Code icons. That's the name of the extension. It's the one that made my folder and files to look the way it does just now. So there are so many extensions that I've used. Live server. So where live server is useful is, let's say I intend to run this code. One of the ways to, if you have live server on in your computer, you see down here, you see go live. If you click on this is going to actually, open a server and then run the code in the browser. You can see it right here. So that's one super useful use of that extension. So the extension is live server. I also have Prettier. Prettier. Okay, so Prettier just help you to format your code. So let's just say I decide to just type maybe span and type some blah 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 inside and maybe h3 and some random things. I can decide to indent them anyhow and just indent them the way I like. Maybe even scatter it this way. Now, if you right click and come to format document, it's going to reformat. Okay, so I think my Prettier is currently not working properly. So let me bring this back. If you format document, you can see everything is rearranged in a way that looks more, readable. So that's what Prettier also does, and that is what that by default, Visual Studio Code also comes with the file formatter, which is why this is useful. So another one I have installed is also Preview. So Preview, what that does is this is useful to HTML document and all. So what Preview does is if I have my file here, I can right click here on that file and say open preview. So open preview will open a new window on the same editor and it will display the output of the code. You can see we have all of this. So this is supposed to be the output. So I can actually put it here. Sorry, let me close this other one. So you can see the output of my code is actually here. I can say, let's say background white, color black. Okay, so let's see the preview. Oh, so that is not taking effect, but that doesn't matter. Oh, I didn't link it yet. So I can just simply link my CSS code, link main.css. And as soon as I link that, that should take effect. Okay, I think, yeah, so that's one glitch with the extension. You need to do it again to see the latest output. But that's not even taking effect, but that doesn't matter. So you can already check it on the browser. You can check it on the browser also to see the actual output. But notwithstanding, the extension does some sort of magic. So if here you have the preview, you can already see, and then you can put the two of them side by side, just so you have a cleaner, outlook. So you can be coding here and be seeing the result here. I can create a table here, table, and inside the table put a caption. Hello, that's my caption. I can have TR. CH. Now you can see everything I'm writing here is not reflecting here. That's because I need to run it again, the preview again. And you can already see in my preview, I now have this one doesn't have the latest change. So that's one disadvantage of using the preview. But at least you get the ones that you do there. But with live server, if you check the browser now, all the latest change will reflect here. So that's super useful. That's one of those things you want to remember. The last one I want to show here is the search and replace. So let's say every instance of TA in my code, I want to replace it with TE. All right. So I can say TA. That's the word I want to search for. I want to replace it with TB. So if you click on this guy right now, it's asking replace 10 occurrence across one file with TB. If I say replace, so you can see TB is here now. TB, you can see TB instead of TA. So that will super help you to quickly make changes to your to things in your code. However, you can also do it another way. You can press Ctrl F on your keyboard and search for TB. Now, all the instances of TB I want to replace with TA here. So I can click here and everything's reversed. If you look at it, you can see TA now. So those are some powerful, extensions versus features within Visual Studio Code that I think is super useful for you as a programmer.